Indra. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19. Rishi, Medhatithi Kanva, Devata, Agni, Marutaha, Chandas, Gayatri. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 1.
Pratityam charo madbharango pītāya prabhūyase marudbhiragnaagahi.
Agni, you are called upon towards that beautiful uninterrupted sacrifice for drinking milk. Do come verily with Maruts. Narratives and concealed truths. Vedic hymns conceal real and enduring procedural truths, or signs as it is called in current parlance, in their sometimes seemingly preposterous narratives that reflect general human behavior. Many such narratives have been observed and dwelt upon in earlier hymns. Truth has been represented as honey, milk, or the sap of the soma plant, explicating the importance of each of these in self-sustained ecological systems of reality, in which humans too are an element, and hence are familiar with. This referral makes understanding the notion of truth as the driving force of the universal performance. All elements involved in a system are equally the truth, with definite regulations to adhere to in expressing themselves in their interaction with other similar or dissimilar elements. But as it is the tendency with duality dwelling, the focus is on those other elements that one of them considers to be of gratifying use. And the narratives are built around these sought-after elements to hold attention. Maruts have a similar role in Vedic narratives, though they are considered asuras or demons. Assist the king of gods, Indra, in his role as a regulator of the atmosphere and are powered by Agni. This symbiosis explains the necessity of both creative and destructive forces of nature in administering all existential activities. Some narratives, generally termed myths, and derisively as well, when logically dissected and analyzed, would in many instances describe an entire process in scientific terms. The mention of Agni in the verse refers to the truth of the important role of heat in the formation of all wind-related phenomena like tornadoes, typhoons, blizzards, or even a gentle breeze, represented by Maruts. All of them drink the elixir of truth to invigorate themselves and express their traits as mandated by nature. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 2.
न हि देवो न मर्त्यो महस्तमग्नम् परः मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
Agni, not divinity, certainly not mortal, is beyond your great determination. Do come verily with Maruts. Agni's will, tornadoes and typhoons. Linguistic minimalists may find the composition of the verse very fuzzy and convoluted and suggest a dozen ways that it can be apparently expressed in a more precise manner and with better clarity of thought to describe any phenomenon. A rhetorical answer could be, to each era its own style. We of today may prefer direct explanations because that is what we have been used to since we started going to school. The other, more reasonable answer is that the personal touch in narratives curb, to an extent, the tendency of birthing technology using science that is more often than not exploitative of nature and is harmful to all, including ourselves. We are witness to such happenings across a wide spectrum of human activities in today's world. It goes against the basic tenet of Vedic thought that exploitation can ever tango with truth, except in the case that certainty reigns over the universe, and this tango also becomes possible for an ordained purpose. The purpose either being to make mortals aware and experience the ill effects of such a pairing of truth or science and exploitation, or being the imperative need of duality to express every possibility in a multiple parametric mix cyclically. We may resolve this tangle at the time when complete consciousness dawns upon us. For now, however, we dwell on Agni's great will that is mentioned in the verse. It only needs recall of the spectacle of a powerful tornado or a devastating typhoon from a safe distance to realize the immensity and power of these phenomena, with heat being one of its driving force attributed to the will of Agni, and comprehend how great and inexorable it truly is. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 3.
ये महो रजसो विदुर्विश्वे देवासो अद्रुहाः मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
Universal divinities, free from malice, who have known the great airspace, Agni, do come verily with Maruts. Common genealogy of everything in existence. It will be interesting to quote the legend about the origins of Devas and Asuras in the context of this verse. First, a glance at the family tree. Kashyapa married the daughters of Daksha. From Aditi he begot the Devas, and from Diti the Asuras. A bit of science before proceeding further. An electron exhibits dual nature, that of a particle and a wave. Elements of the periodic table form compounds with other elements by establishing electron bonds that appear like a wave or a fluid in motion surrounding the bonded elements. Now, for a relook at this family tree in terms of what each of those names may represent. Kashyapa, literally,
the ruler of spirituous liquid in one context.
if considered a bonding fluid, married Aditi, or bonded elements from the opposite ends of the periodic table forming ionic bonds, or between like non-metal elements forming non-polar covalent bonds. Such inorganic compounds
Correspond to
the representative bodies of gods, such as Indra, Varuna, Vayu, and others. Kashyapa married Diti and other daughters of Daksha, or bonded elements having similar electronegativity differences, forming covalent bonds, and such organic compounds constituted the body structures of mortals. Aditi represented abundance, perfection, and spontaneity, while Diti and her other sisters, the features of liberality, ego, and deliberation. The two streams of precursor principles represented by chemical compounds so generated evolved into the universe that we vaguely comprehend and the world that we live in. Humans, as well as all other life forms inhabiting Earth and perhaps elsewhere as well, were born of Kashyapa and those other daughters of Daksha, the demons of Diti, while the natural forces that express themselves through molecules with ionic or polar covalent bonds were born of Aditi and pervaded the universe. Agni, the priest, was a facilitator of all these bondings. This narrative is only a shot in the dark of an unskilled shooter upon the conviction that Vedic thoughts indeed describe the realities of the universe. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 4.
उग्रा अक्कमानृचुरना धृष्टा समोजसा मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
Those who have sung hymn of praises, invincible with vigor, mighty Agni, do come verily with Maruts. Man made God in his own form. If acknowledging a thing, whether an object or a principle, with full understanding of its characteristics and its manner of behavior is akin to experiencing it, then this is what is sought to be achieved by the composer as well as the singers of the verse. They visualize the natural forces at work all around them and being involved with every activity that is happening. To make the experience even more personal, they imagine personifications of these forces in their own form with representative extensions of the human anatomy to account for the superior traits that the forces possess vis-a-vis themselves, celebrating and worshipping such imagined forms as part of this profound process of experience. Towards this end, such forms are also invited to the venue of any activity undertaken. Agni, for instance, is depicted with 2 heads and 5 arms riding a ram. It is not that God made man in his own form. It is certainly to the contrary. It is man who made God in his own form to experience him. The Supreme, Brahman, by definition, has neither form nor traits, is infinite and invincible, a concept that does not lend itself to be personified, but only experienced. Sans the personification aspect, this is the exact procedure that a designer, a fabricator, or a performer of any activity follows in present-day situations too. The activity in focus is first rehearsed in the mind, which is the same as experiencing it in imagination, followed by its comprehension in reality. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 5.
ये शुभ्रा घोरवर्पसस्तु क्षत्रासो विसादसः मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
Those radiant, formidable looking, very strong, enemy destroyers, Agni, do come verily with Maruts. Balance, the universal watchword. Asuras, working on their own, need to be full of malice without any inhibition, as maliciousness is their inherent trait. However, when working under a benign leadership, their malevolence is restrained and focused on the purpose for which their participation is sought. Speaking of the Maruts under the influence of Indra and Agni, in this frame of reference, the limited duration for which malicious atmospheric manifestations of the Maruts operate can be deemed to be a validation of such a notion. This is one way of understanding the atmospheric system and extend its applicability across systems at all levels that together make up the universe. The repeatedly mentioned fractal nature of the universe enables this manner of distension. It is also true that the value of benignancy can be truly appreciated only when subjected to the atrocities of malignancy. This is the way of duality, in whose dominion we exist. Further, an overdose of benignancy spontaneously breeds an ambience conducive to the advent and expression of malignancy, the reverse of this process also being a typical phenomenon. This too, then, is the way of duality. The ideal environment is where both operate in tandem, balance out each other's propensity extremes. This is the state of balance that is desired to be maintained by seers through their representative sacrifices based upon which the code of living, dharma, is framed. An individual who is able to internalize this state in body and mind is said to be endowed with sattva guna or ideal character. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 6.
येनाकस्याधीरोचने दिवि देवास आसते मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
The gods, those who are above from firmament in luminous heaven, Agni, do come verily with Maruts. Transformations of grace. Given that the term heaven includes all of the infinitely vast universe beyond the atmospheric cover of the earth in the earth-bound human's perspective, there are a few inferences that lead to derived truths. The first inference is that at any given place on the earth's surface, the firmament is not entirely luminous, being so only during daytime. Falling back upon the overwhelmingly vision-dependent correlation of light with clarity of thought and knowledge, and of darkness with muddled thinking and ignorance, which is a fact given the factors involved. The heaven bestows both knowledge and ignorance that can be translated as good and bad by turn, cyclically. The derived truth is that if heaven is considered the abode of gods who bestow grace, then grace includes both good and bad, light and darkness, as differentiated by us due to our own limitations. The other inference, as well as the derived truth, is that the discrimination between devas and asuras too is at our end, attributable to our duality conditioned mind. Both are creations of the originating singularity, and both indulge in bestowals, their journey from the singular source and the dual propensity of the destination, transforming them to what we force ourselves to perceive them as. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 7.
ययीं क्रयन्ति पर्वतान् निरस्तमुद्रवर्णवम् वृद्धिरग्नागहि.
Those who swing mountains over the flowing ocean, Agni, verily do come with Maruts. Of mindful mountains and knowledgeable oceans. The flowing oceans represent knowledge in Vedic thought, and mountains represent the stubborn mind conditioned to duality and that which is not swayed by any earthly force. The verse asserts that true knowledge, which abides in the oceans, has the power to swing even such mountains and perhaps even pulverize them if a writer is allowed to indulge in a bit of extended and fancifully descriptive imagination. In the writer's defense, however, how else could one explain dissolution of ego when decisively confronted by knowledge, given the context of the verse? The assumptive differences between the two schools of philosophy, Advaita and Dvaita, is primarily based on the question of whether to consider duality as an illusory offshoot of singularity or as both singularity and duality being real. A third assumptive formulation, Vishishtadvaita, takes a middle path and postulates that the two are not entirely different, but with firm caveats. It must be the versatility of Vedic thought and the ingenuity of the human mind that together are able to interpret the Vedas that they all swear by quite reasonably according to their respective assumptions. All three thought streams very successfully swing and pulverize mindful mountains above the ambience generated by oceans aflush with wisdom and discernment. In purely material terms, however, this is perhaps a vivid description of the formation of a tropical cyclonic storm, where mountainous clouds are swung above the ocean by winds or maruts generated by heat or Agni. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 8.
आये धन्वन्ति रश्मिभिस्तिरः समुद्रमोजसा मरुद्भिरग्नागहि.
Those who verily spread over the ocean by rays, by force, Agni, do come verily with Maruts. rubric of earthlings. In the rubric of earthlings, the visible representation of Agni in the heavens is the sun, in the atmospheric envelope is lightning, and upon earth is fire. There are innumerable other ways that Agni expresses himself. The verse refers to the truth of the rays of the sun spreading across the oceans on earth to vaporize water, knowledge, and wisdom. The Maruts, forces that Agni spawns in the process, reach the water vapors, now called clouds, everywhere over the landmass, the barren mind of the dry regions of the earth. Agni illuminates the waters of wisdom within our minds too, to make us understand the composition of existence and the nature of the Creator. In heaven, which is awash in the ocean of ether, Agni spreads about, generating forces that impel Vishwakarma and Twashtra to incessantly create and maintain the cosmic structures according to the laws of nature. The notion of they being invited to the venue of a sacrifice on earth and they having to come from elsewhere is a human mind construct, constrained by the three-dimensional conceptualization of reality and the projected human urges and needs upon the personified divinities. But in a manner, Agni does have to travel from one place to another, riding the forces that it produces. As an example, Agni, as heat energy, rides the Maruts to reach the temperate and frigid zones of the earth from the tropics. If this were not to be, then the tropics would be too warm and the temperate and frigid zones too cold for most species of life to sustain themselves and flourish. Mandalam 1, Suktam 19, Rik 9.
अभित्वा पूर्ववीतये सृजामि सोम्यं मधु परद्भिरग्नागरी.
Towards you, first drinker, I release amiable honey. Agni, verily do come with Maruts. Agni, the bridge that spans divergencies. The extract of the Soma plant, understanding of truth, got by milling knowledge in our minds, mortar, with discernment, pestle, and acknowledging this truth by affirming to the gods the fact that it was by their grace that this entire process came to be, by offering the extract into the sacrificial fire, accompanied by the rendition of the affirmation aloud, is what a sacrificial ritual all about. The first drinker to whom it is offered is always Agni, the Purohita or priest, the one who is thoughtful of the welfare of all, and who also exists within every other god as facets of their deemed personalities, which makes him the ideal messenger as well. The formidable character, extreme vigor, great strength, the bright radiance of the Maruts are all facets of Agni in them. He effortlessly spans the divide between the dichotomies of duality, between Devas and Asuras, between heaven and earth, between the divinity of Rama and the impiety of Ravana, between benevolence and malevolence. Making an offering to Agni and acknowledging him is tantamount to the acceptance, recognition, and affirmation of the omnipresent and omniscient Brahman. When the spirit of the process of this ritual is integrated into every activity that we do or are ordained to do, then it is said that the aftermaths of such actions, whether beneficial or detrimental, have no bearing upon our state of mind. It is indeed quite confounding to imagine ourselves in that robotic state of being, where no action of ours ever perturb us. Perhaps it can only be experienced and not speculated upon or described.